Hello everybody. I know it's been a little while since I posted my last video. I thank you all for coming back and joining me once again. So today I'm going to start a new series of blogs. It's sort of like the mini series that you see on TV. It's kind of like that. I'm doing like a few different parts to one specific subject. And I guess I could go on and on and on like an idiot, or we could just jump into the blog. So let's just jump into the blog. So this is part one. It's called This Is Me Then. And basically what I'm doing is I'm taking a look at my life for the past 28 years. And I'm sort of presenting it in blog form. And I'm really doing this. This is dedicated to my fellow high school students. We are coming up on our 10-year reunion this year. And so I really wanted to kind of reintroduce myself, because we haven't seen each other in probably 12 or 14 years. And so I really wanted to come back and basically give you a glimpse of who I am. So it's been a minute and a half. Let's get into the freaking blog already. Alright, so growing up. Where do I start? I was born and raised in a town where there are more cows than people. If you don't believe me, Google it. It's called Labam, Washington. I bet you can't even spell it. Anyway, I think before school even started, I should have known that I was gay. Dead people knew I was gay. I was always playing dress up, and while other kids were interested in football, I was interested in jumping rope. While the boys were out hunting and fishing, I was at home cooking with Mom. Like, hello. I really have been a dumb blonde ever since I was born. And I've had this great sense of oblivion that's just sort of carried over. But being gay and growing up gay in a world where, number one, we didn't know what it was. Nobody knew what it was. Nobody was gay. Number two, it wasn't talked about, so there was no way for me to explore it. And number three, I hid it. So growing up, I knew that I was different. I never really had a lot of acceptance from my father, quite the opposite. He came from a really hard background as well. So an extreme example of the way that I grew up was, we'd go out to McDonald's, and if he finished his meal before we did, we left without being able to finish it. And that's always been so hard for me. And my friends now know me as somebody who like scarfs down my food really quickly, and I'm always like the first one done at the table. It's like a contest. But really it came from that, because I was always afraid that I wouldn't be able to finish my meal. And so I always had that pressure there. Everything I did was never good enough, was never quick enough, was never right. So it was, and I don't want to blame anybody for turning out the way that I did. I think that everybody's dealt a hand, and it's all in how you deal with that. But I think that's one of the factors that contributed to me being such an insecure person, on top of being closeted, on top of being, the freak. I was always, I didn't have that safe place, that most kids have. So that was very difficult. And when I started going to school, like, it started out normal, but it never continued that way. That just wasn't who I was at all. And when I got into school, another thing that kind of factored in, and it was the second part of me growing up, was, I went to Willapa Valley High School, and that was sort of, the privileged kids. That's, if you had something, you went to Willapa Valley. You know, if you didn't have anything, you went to Raymond. So it was like the haves and the have-nots, and then there was me. Like, what the hell are you doing? Like, you even get to pick. But, so I was going to a school where I really didn't quite fit in. You know, I didn't even get to wear blue jeans to school. We just couldn't afford it. You know, everywhere I went, you know, when I went shopping, you know, I went to Value Village. You know, I went to Goodwill because I couldn't afford anything else. You know, dress shoes were always much less expensive, you know, as were slacks and dress shirts, because no kid wanted to wear that crap. But, so even before I became a freak and an outcast, I was already dressing the part. Thanks, Mom. Love you. And again, I'm not blaming anybody for anything that happened. But, you know, that's the way it was, you know, and, we weren't poor enough to need free lunches, you know, from the school. But we were poor enough to where, you know, Walmart was a monthly trip that we had to save up for. You know, it just wasn't, we were very much the lower end of middle class. And I'm going to this school that's, you know, privileged people. And, yes, it's in the middle of nowhere out in the country, but, you know, whatever. So, yeah, dress the part from the very beginning. I knew I looked different. I knew I talked different. I acted different. I liked completely different things. And so I kind of started out being really insecure about it. And looking back, I think if I had just relaxed and hadn't been such a tight ass, I think I could have made a lot of friends. But I always felt like I had to watch my back. And you know, secrets don't stay buried, especially in a small town, and especially when you're, you know, someone who is pretty much a very flamboyant person. I think from day one, I've always had such a flamboyant personality, so I could never hide that about myself. And so everybody knew I was gay, but me. And to be honest, even though I went through some very public things at school that should have cued me in, I still didn't know until I was like 17. Maybe 16. But yeah, I mean, it was crazy. So, very, very interesting time growing up. So, I mean, as far as friends go, I really did isolate myself. And I really did feel like I just had to watch my back. And, you know, there were some very cruel kids at the time. You know, that really kind of stopped me from letting my guard down a little bit. I remember in the 2nd grade, this girl was so nice to me, and this other kid came up and she was like, she's only doing that because the teacher's watching. Nobody's really going to be nice to you. And I was like, what? And, you know, when you're that young and that naive, I think you'll believe just about anything. And so that's always my first memory of me saying to myself, this is not going to be a good experience. And it was very tough. It was very tough. And it was very hard. I remember a lot of times in the early years when I was like in elementary school, like K through 3, probably more 2 through 3, and a little bit into 4, I just remember people telling me all the time. It actually happened on a frequent basis. People would tell me that that I didn't matter, or that I was just kind of invisible. You know, I was always the kid that nobody really ever looked at. And as those of you who went to high school with me knew, that was all about to change very soon. Very, very soon. But anyway, that's all I have time for now with part 1. So thank you for tuning in, and then part 2, we are going to go on to grades 4 through 12, and we're going to take a look at that. Are you nervous? Because I'm nervous, especially if you knew me then. Alright, I'll see you guys really soon.